Theresa May has been caught out for sending conflicting messages to her party's pro- and anti-EU factions. Sooner rather later, the longest fence-sitting exercise in British political history will have to end, and she will have to take sides. May's last-minute personal promise, a bigger role for Parliament in the Brexit endgame later this year, to 15 pro-EU potential rebels staved off or humiliating Commons defeat last night. The rebels backed off because they thought they had won her assurance that ministers would need M.P.'s approval for their next moves if no deal is reached in the Brexit negotiations by the 30th of November. Their aim, rightly, is to prevent an economically damaging no-deal exit next March, and to stop May offering MPs what might be a lesser of two evils choice of her deal or no deal. But when pro-Europeans claimed May's concession had headed off a no-deal departure, David Davis, the Brexit secretary, hit the roof, claiming one of his red lines had been crossed, that MPs must not conduct the negotiations. A key point in the negotiations remains Britain's access to, on withdrawal from, the EU customs union. Since the referendum, there has been hot debate over the meaning of Brexit. Would it entail a full withdrawal from the existing agreement, known as hard Brexit, or the soft version in which we would remain part of a common customs area for most goods, as Turkey does? Number 10 has so far insisted that Brexit means Brexit and that Britain will be leaving the customs union, but may be inclined to change its position once the potential risks to the UK's economic outlook become clearer. Though progress was made last year, there has still been no solid agreement on whether there should be a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. To ensure borderless travel on the island, the countries must be in regulatory alignment and therefore adhere to the same rules as the customs union. In December, the Conservative Party's coalition partners, the DUP, refused a draft agreement that would place the UK/EU border in the Irish Sea due to its potential to undermine the union. May has promised that would not be the case and has suggested that a specific solution would need to be found. Despite protests from a small number of Conservative MPs, the government and the EU are largely in agreement that a transitional period is needed after Brexit. The talks, however, have reached an impasse. Though May has agreed that the UK will continue to contribute to the EU budget until 2021, the PM wants to be able to select which laws made during this time the UK will have to adhere to. Chief Negotiator Michel Barnier, seen here with EU Minister David Davis, has said the UK must adopt all of the laws passed during the transition, without any input from British ministers or MEPs. The Prime Minister has promised EU citizens already living in the UK the right to live and work here after Brexit, but the rights of those who arrive after Brexit Day remains unclear. May insists that those who arrive during the transition period should not be allowed to stay, whereas the EU believe the cut-off point should be later. Despite this being a key issue in negotiations, the government has yet to lay out exactly what it wants from a trade deal with the EU. Infighting within the cabinet has prevented a solid position from being reached, with some MPs content that no deal is better than a bad deal while others rally behind single market access. The EU has already confirmed that access to the single market would be impossible without the UK remaining in the customs union. The government has already begun trying to woo foreign leaders into prospective trade agreements. with various high-profile state visits to China, India and Canada for May, and the now infamous invitation to US President Donald Trump to visit London. However, the UK cannot make trade agreements with another country while it is still a member of the EU, and the potential loss of trade with the world's major powers is a source of anxiety for the PM. The EU has said the UK cannot secure trade deals during the transition period. Banks in the UK will be hit hard regardless of the Brexit outcome. The EU has refused to give British banks passporting rights to trade within the EU, dashing hopes of a special city deal. However, according to new reports, Germany has suggested allowing trade on the condition that the UK continues paying into the EU budget even after the transition period. Those who called off their rebellion last night must now stand firm. But Davis is digging in and doesn't want to make concessions. He issued a menacing statement saying, "We have not, and will not, agree to the House of Commons binding the government's hands in the negotiations." One Davis ally added, "The only commitment we have made is to talk." This called into doubt May's pledge, fueling speculation she had hoodwinked the pro-EU Tories. But the rebels are not crying foul. They think they are on a winning streak. Stephen Hammond, one of their leaders, even heaped praise on the much-criticized Chief Whip Julian Smith for brokering the deal. He conducted the negotiations in a sensible and professional manner which enabled us to make progress, Hammond told me. The pro-Europeans have the power to hold the Prime Minister to her promise. The EU withdrawal bill returns to the House of Lords next Monday, so peers can table an amendment to deliver May's pledge. That would almost certainly be passed. The bill would then go back to the Commons, when the Tories might need to rebel to nail down May's commitment. This wholly false headline merited the first ruling by IPSO, the press regulator, under Clause 1 of the revised Editor's Code of Practice. Clause 1 makes specific reference to newspapers printing headlines not supported by the text in perhaps the most notorious front page of the past few years. The Mail derides the High Court judges who ruled that Parliament must have a vote on whether to trigger Article 50 and start the Brexit process in the Express take on the same story. They managed to incorporate the Union Jack, allude to First World War propaganda, invoke memories of Churchill and, of course, state Brexit means Brexit. The Sun marked the day on which Mrs May triggered Article 50 by projecting a huge and terrible pun onto the cliffs of Dover, referencing their notorious Eurosceptic headline from 1990, "See, up yours to laws." The Sun stokes the flames of the brief Gibraltar dispute, a dispute in which Spain, the supposed aggressors, only joined to note that there was no need for it. This headline followed Mrs May's snap election announcement, which gave the Mail hope that dissenting opinions on Brexit would disappear in recent months. The Mail has often foregone catchy headlines in favour of rambling rants. This is an early example aimed at Tory Brexit rebels. This headline takes aim at the Lords over their repeated amendments to the EU withdrawal bill on the day that the EU withdrawal bill is to be debated in the Commons. The Sun offers two choices to MPs, desperately including all conceivable imagery that might make Brits feel patriotic, which apparently includes the Loch Ness Monster on the same day. The Express lets MPs know what the consequences of the vote may be. Her problem is that whenever she makes a concession to the pro-Europeans, hardline Brexiteers throw their toys out of their pram and demand their own sweeties. That's why Eurosceptics have revived talk of ousting May next month by triggering a vote of confidence in her as Tory leader, though I doubt they would win one. It is dawning on some Brexiteers that May is not on their side. that the direction of travel is towards a softer Brexit. She keeps putting off the evil day when she takes sides, but might have to as early as next week. Parliament should force the choice on May. 3 MPs, 2 Labour and 1 Tory, have told me in the past week they are asking themselves the "what did you do in the war?" question. In other words, what are they doing to halt the devastation, or at least cushion the impact by insisting on a soft Brexit? Philip Lee asked himself the question before deciding to resign as Justice Minister yesterday to join the potential rebels. As he put it, "If, in the future, I am to look my children in the eye and honestly say that I did my best for them, I cannot, in all good conscience, support." How our country's exit from the EU looks set to be delivered. May faces defeat if she breaks promise to give MPs say on Brexit. Labour cannot crow about the Tories' latest turmoil. Parliament's growing role in the Brexit debate makes it harder for Jeremy Corbyn to mask his party's differences. In an attempt to limit divisions, he has ordered his MPs to abstain tonight when the Commons discusses the Lords' call for the UK to remain in the single market via membership of the European Economic Area, EEA. Corbyn allies insist that there is no chance of the Lords' amendment being passed by MPs. But his critics say Labour is squandering an opportunity to insist on a soft Brexit. Some 16 Tories are ready to back the EA option when the Commons debates the trade and customs bills next month. So Corbyn could potentially defeat the government if he supported it. Many MPs feel powerless to stop the devastation. They are frightened of their own shadows, and going against the 2016 referendum, even though that did not specify the form of Brexit. This week's Commons debates confirm there is a majority there for a soft Brexit. Some Tories estimate 200 of their colleagues would back it. MPs have the power to take back control. They must use it before it's too late.